Why, hi there. I'm Ron Juckett. He's Ricky Keeler, and he's Drew Douglas. And it's time for the DoDCast. It's time to party.
Woo!
We hope you survived Clinchmas all right. And it's time to look at the National League East Division Champion, Washington Nationals. How are you guys this evening?
I'm doing well.
Ron, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. So, it took a while to get there. Well, not really, because yesterday was September 10th. But the Washington Nationals have won the National League East. They have hold a 20-game lead with 19 games to go. I think, in the overall scheme of things, this might have been the biggest surprise of the year, the fact that it happened so easily.
Yeah, it's really been an incredible season with so many guys getting hurt, and the team still managed to win the division on September 10th to be the first team to clinch a playoff spot in the league.
That just shows really that the problems that the National League East has had this year were just nobody could really challenge the Nats all season. But to their credit, they went out there and, like you wrote this morning, winning all those games against teams that are nowhere near the postseason. And you have to do that. A good team takes advantage of those games, and Nats absolutely did that this year.
60-30 against teams with losing records. And I forgot what the division record was, but it was pretty substantial, 41-20 or something like that. You have to win those games. Honestly, for me, I think that we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Ricky. After the 23-5 game, after the Rendon game, they weren't going to be challenged. That was a weekend series where the Mets could have made a statement, kept it close, but after that, the Nats hadn't had less than a 5-game lead since like the middle of May. And when they beat the Mets on July 4th, it was 10. And that was the last time it was under 10. You knew that the only team that really could threaten the Nats this year were the Mets, and they imploded.
And from what I remember, the Mets won the first 2 games in that series. You had the Adam Eaton ACL injury the first game, and then the Mets beat Steven Strasburg in the second game.
On the Friday and Saturday night.
But also Syndergaard hurt his lat muscle, I think, in that game.
That's right. I was trying to think if that was the same game or not. He shouldn't have pitched, and then he did. And then your mom's best friend, Kevin Plawecki, pitched batting practice for the Mets. We already have someone in the chat. Jeez, English is a new language for me today. Judo said yay about a half hour ago. Nats fan 11 says, should I buy the new 2017 Take 17 sweatshirt or the 2016 We Came to Rain? 2016 is $20 cheaper and looks nicer, but I'm still undecided. Hello, fellow Nats fans, or help fellow Nats fans. I haven't seen the new ones.
Looked nice yesterday. Normally when I advise buying postseason stuff, wait until the whole postseason's over. But if you can get if you like last year's sweatshirt better than this year's, then go with last year's. Go with what you like.
Yeah, I like We Came to Rain. I just like the slogan better.
Yeah, I like We Came to Rain too, but like Ricky said, wait until the end of this postseason. You probably get a little cheaper, and you never know. Maybe the Nats do something this year that they haven't done before and get some with that printed on the front.
Then Judo says, I'm very excited.
As are all of us.
Guys, what do you think the turning point was this year?
Yeah, I agree with you about that 23-5 game because it really made a statement against the Mets. And Rendon struggled through most of April, and ever since then he hasn't really missed a beat. And now he's being discussed as a possible MVP candidate. So he's been one of their better and most consistent players throughout the year, and that was really the turning point for him and the Nationals, in my opinion.
I'm going to go with that Memorial Day West Coast trip. When you always have that first long West Coast trip of the year that can make or break teams. The Nats are playing well going into that point, but you have Hunter Strickland start what he did with Bryce Harper and create one of our most entertaining DoDcasts of the season. But the Nats looked like had an edge after that series. They swept the Giants, took 2 out of 3 in Oakland, and then took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. So when you have an 8-2 road trip, I mean, that can really carry your season after that because you can afford to lose ground in home games because you did so well on the road. And then the also one I came up with was before the Met series, the 40 runs they put up at Coors Field.
Oh yeah,
Colorado with the tricycle. It felt like they were never going to stop scoring in those games. That's when it's worth staying up till 1:30 to do DoDCast when they score 16 runs in a game.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the potential for it. And when they started to lose all these players, starting with Eaton and then Harper last month, they may not be as potent as they were at one point, but they could still, on a good night, put 7, 8, 10 runs on the board. I found in the piece I wrote today, there's 15 runs. They're 15 runs off the franchise record. They have 19 games to do it. And last year was the franchise record. I mean, this offense is just lethal.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch them continue to produce in the absence of a lot of their stars. Like you said, Eaton and Harper have both missed significant time. And just see guys like Wilmer Defoe and Michael Taylor just come in and make the most of their situations.
And this offense does a good job, I think, of adjusting to the personnel that they have. Early in the year, they're winning games with a lot of kabooms and multi-RBI games, and then when people got hurt, it became more about the starting pitching. It became more about small ball, getting runners over, stealing bases, because they didn't do a lot of that when Trey Turner was out, but it would be guys like Defoe, guys like Adrian Sanchez that would just know their role. Hey, I got to move this guy over with a ground ball, or I got to bunt the guy into scoring position. It's the little things that the Nats are doing well to win ball games. Could the base running be better? Yeah, probably. Bob Henley's known to send everybody. I'm sure Bob Henley would send all three of us from third base. But at the same time, they do most of the little things well, and that's going to help them when they get to October, because that's how you win.
That aggressiveness, though, has helped for most of the year. I mean, sometimes it can kind of, fire spectacularly or fail spectacularly. But it's worked. The Nats have 95 stolen bases this year going into yesterday's game, which was third in the National League. And that's with Trey Turner missing a huge chunk of the season and no Adam Eaton. Judo says, I have to clarify something. I think Ron thought it was me saying I thought that being a baseball writer would be more fun. That was Jay. This is from yesterday's show. Being a baseball writer would be fun, but he loves his NASA job. I love your NASA job, too. You can adopt me at any point. He didn't want to come across as ungrateful. And he says the Tracycle was his first DoDCast. And so, as you can see, even the cat wants in on this action today as she cuddles on my leg. And that was his, and he didn't study through finals, so he could listen to that. And school comes first, Judo. But you got to jump.
Sorry, Judo. That was my DoDCast, so I'll apologize for that one.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. Who would you say is the MVP of this team?
I'd say Anthony Rendon. Just as good as he's been with so many guys out, he's always been there in the heart of the lineup, producing seemingly every night, and then just playing Gold Glove caliber defense at third base and just seemingly doing everything right since late April. I think he's the MVP of the team and deserves consideration to be the MVP of the National League.
I'll go Ryan Zimmerman. I think we all knew Harper was a constant. Murphy was a constant. Rendon was somewhat a constant. I think he's overachieved the expectations for this year. Scherzer, obviously. But they're not this good without 31 home runs from Ryan Zimmerman and close to 100 RBIs. He's been healthy all season. They haven't had to worry about first base, which I think was a huge deal. And that's helped Adam Lynn adjust off the bench. So I think him being healthy and providing more protection in between Bryce Harper and Daniel Murphy has been so huge for this team this year.
I'm going to say Gio Gonzalez, because I think when they needed stability in that starting rotation, he was able to provide it, especially with Joe Ross eventually going down with the Tommy John and Tanner Roark not being able to do this year what he did last year, and then the injuries back and forth between Strasburg and Scherzer. Gio's been that stable force to go out there and give you I forget I'm sure it hasn't changed, but his first 24 starts, he had 20 that were quality. So 6 innings and less than 3 earned runs. And he's just kept it up all year. They have the chance, this rotation, if Tanner Roark pitches well the last 3 times out, to have 4 15-game winners. That's incredible in this day and age. I know that wins don't mean as much as they used to, but But, I really think that, right from Gio's first start in that spring training opener in Port St. Lucie, when he just looked like a different Gio all the way through. Not that Scherzer's had a bad year at all. He probably will win a Cy Young Award. But Gio has been a guy you've been able to rely on every fifth day all season.
We semi-talked about this yesterday, Ron, but I'll bring it up because you said Gio. If he throws 3 great starts down the stretch, is he your Cy Young winner this year with Scherzer missing time with some of his injuries?
You got the IBWA ballot. I have it too.
Mm-hmm. He's top 5 for me at the very least.
Yeah, I don't know if I can put him above Scherzer, but he's gonna get a vote somewhere on that list. Judo suggests Judo's about to say Gio. What about Michael A. Taylor? He's been far from the best player on the team, but in the way he's filled in for Eaton is invaluable.
I think he's my X factor for the postseason. If he continues to make great plays defensively, steals bases, has better at bats. It seems like we watch Michael Taylor throughout the year. He's become a guy that strikes out a lot early to work in the count, drawing walks in the 9th inning to get on base. I don't think we would have seen that 2 years ago. He's another one that's doing the little things correctly. By the way, Gio, his last 10 starts, 7-2, 1.90.
Yeah, that's Cy Young stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Ricky. I think Taylor's a big X factor in the postseason. The way he's playing right now, especially if he's hitting at the bottom of the lineup, like a heart of the lineup hitter who does a great job of lengthening the lineup, and there's really not a whole lot of weak spots other than Wieters, who struggled most of this year. But between his offense and then he can go out and steal a base, and then the defense that he's played, it seems like every single night he's going out and making a highlight reel catch or throwing someone out at the plate. He's just played Gold Glove caliber defense, and he's really – I think he's hit like a heart of the lineup hitter for at least the last couple of weeks. So it's been a lot of fun to watch him develop into almost a star center fielder for the Nationals.
When he makes the lineup deeper, because you look at this lineup in the postseason, and if you can go 7 deep, and Matt Wieters would be your 8 hitter, I mean, that's one of the toughest lineups for a starting pitcher to navigate, no matter who it is.
When Eaton went down, and we knew that Taylor was going to come up, he went, oh, great, here's Mr. March to go through and fill this role, and now they're going to have to go through and trade for somebody or even put Trey Turner back in center field. And, boy, he's proved me wrong time and time again, to the point where he really has earned the starting job next year in center field. When he's comfortable at the plate, I think nerves will be a factor in the playoffs. But when he's comfortable at the plate, he's short. His swing is short enough. He makes good contact, and he hits home runs too.
Some clutch ones too.
Yeah, I really think if there's one player who maybe has grown the most over the course of the year, I would say it is Michael Taylor. Judo says Gio could realistically end the season with the best ERA in the National League. Think about that for a sec. Same thing last year when Rourke had a better ERA than Max Scherzer. Gio could possibly win the ERA title. Talk about things you wouldn't say in Alex, but couldn't say in April, Alex. Larry Jacobs says, congrats to the Nats.
He's looking at 200 innings for the first time since 2011. He's about 20 innings away from 200.
What did he need to vest that contract, 180?
100. He basically, if he gets one more out tomorrow, he vests the contract.
That's a pretty good deal. I suppose the other turning point of the year, considering that they're playing nearly 667 ball the second half, were the trades to upgrade the bullpen. Which do you think was the best of those deals?
I'm going to say the Doolittle-Madsen deal. I mean, I like the Kinsler one, but I think you added Sean Doolittle outside of those first couple of games where he was on the tightrope and he kept talking about how it wasn't always going to be like that, and it ended up being like that. But every time he comes in now, he's throwing lights out. He's not putting people on base. He's not walking anybody anymore. And then you had Ryan Madsen, who was throwing 100. in August, and I don't think any of us expected Ryan Madson to be throwing that hard. I know he's had the injury, so that's kind of affected since he's come back, but the off-speed stuff looks really good. In addition to the fastball, which is still 97. It's still faster I think anybody thought of he could throw. So I think adding two guys is better than the one deal, but I like both of them. And Brandon Kinsler, outside of a bad week, has been really good too.
Drew?
Yeah, I agree. I like the Doolittle-Madsen trade better. And the other thing, too, is both of them are controllable at least through next season. So you add two guys to the back end of the bullpen that should contribute for at least a year and a half. And with Doolittle, you got him for several more seasons after this year. And so I just really think that was a great trade. And it also gave Blake Trinan kind of a change of scenery out in Oakland. I always liked him, and I hope he continues to pitch well in Oakland, and maybe he'll get traded and go to another contender next season.
Yeah, I think there was an immediate sense of calm after the Doolittle-Madsen trade, that they finally had what they thought was the solution after such a rough first half of the bullpen. And the results kind of took off after that. I believe they're 36-19 now since the break. Kinsler was a good addition, and I think they were absolutely right to use him in the seventh inning. In hindsight, we thought they would be the closer. He would be the closer after that trade, but they've slotted him right in the seventh inning slot, and everyone has a bad night now and again, but it really has worked. The law firm gives Washington that vital playoff advantage that they didn't have the first half of the year. Before we get going on that, or if you want to respond, Judo says, what if Gio was the National League ERA leader, Scherzer in strikeouts, and Strauss in wins, a combined triple crown, and it could realistically happen? Yeah, that's true. Larry asks, how many wins do you think the Nats get? They had 95 last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Judo says 97. I did the math on the calculator last night. This team's on a 100-win pace. And they only have 3 more games against a team with a winning record.
Yeah, but I think you also have to account for, I think, games that, like yesterday, where they're not going to play everybody. Maybe not quite what they did yesterday, but there's going to be days where like half the starters don't play after this weekend. So I'm probably leaning toward 97, 98, but I don't think they're going to get to it. If they get to 100, I think they're the one seed in the National League.
Drew?
Yeah, I agree. I think Dusty will probably give guys days off down the stretch, but it seems like really all year is what they've been dealing with so many injuries, and they've continued to win. So if they throw lineups out there like yesterday where it's guys that even with all the replacements this season haven't gotten a whole lot of playing time, I think, yeah, probably 96, 97. But I wouldn't be surprised if those guys went out and continued to win, because it just seems like it's been a magical year for the Nats with just so many guys coming up and contributing.
98 wins, that means they would close the season 10-9. I think they do better than 10-9. I think they actually could do the 100.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Judo says, I'm going to go on record saying I think Kinsler comes back. He means, I guess, to the team. It's his first postseason appearance, and he seems comfortable. And Alex Yalen calls in, yo. And he apparently told his wife he was grocery shopping. Remember, donuts in aisle 5 and 2 for $1 on the pot roasts in the meat section, Alex, okay? All right.
Let me go back to the bullpen thing earlier. We talked about the trades that made the turning point. How about Matt Albers this year?
Oh, yeah.
He started out closing games in April, and he's become really a great middle relief guy for this team. I know Dusty, I think, said something along the lines like, I know he's not built like Adonis, but I've seen pitchers built like Adonis not throw well. So for a guy that was released after spring training and came back on a minor league deal again, he's been fantastic. And he's all of a sudden you go to October and you say, hey, I want Matt Albers throwing in the 6th inning. I don't think any of us would have thought that.
You Drew?
Yeah, that's one of Rizzo's more under the radar moves. And it seems like everything Rizzo does has been magic, apart from really the Papelbon trade and then trading Felipe Rivera last year from Art Melanson. But, looking back on it, I would still make that deal again. You need Melanson. So, yeah, I love Mike Rizzo as a GM, and Albers is just another one of his great moves.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Seth says hi, and he's going to the Sunday night game. That's awesome. Drew, I hope your mom's not watching, so she knows that she's not going to she's going to the Saturday afternoon game. And Alex says baseball is better than groceries. He also says that the Albers isn't great with runners in scoring position, but you give him a clean inning. Like if you hand him the 7th or 8th, the guy's a lot. I honestly think that he probably would get the 6th in the playoff rotation, don't you guys?
I could see them maybe mixing and matching depending on. I don't know if you're going to use, let's say you play a 5-game series, you're not going to use Kinsler 5 games in a row in the 7th inning. So you might have a case where maybe Albers comes in for a certain situation because Sammy Solis, while he's, I think, a reliable arm, has had some ups and downs this year with his command. Oliver Perez, you're only using against lefties in all likelihood. So Albers is really that last guy on the bullpen besides the law firm that you could bring in certain situations. I know Alex makes a good point, road in scoring position, but also Albers has gotten some huge double plays that have saved games. I'm thinking about the one from Saturday night where he got the double play on Hoskins in the ninth that the Nats rallied to win. That would have been a huge double play.
And don't forget, there is no, in the best of 5 series, you don't play 3 consecutive games. There is that off day between Game 4 and Game 5. So unlike the NLCS, if the Nats get that far, you're never playing more than 2 games in a row. You're going to get that day of rest. And that's big. Let's see. Larry Jacobs says, I still want the Nets to catch those Dodgers. Let's go Giants. Alex says, I think that they can get 100. Our kids and the pitching can do it. Judo says, first 2 games of the season, Trinan may have well been Craig Kimbrell. Things went downhill from there. What do you think happened to Trinan? Because Judo's right. Those first couple games against Miami at home to start the season, he's exactly everything you wanted to see in a closer.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. For whatever reason, the 9th inning is just different, and some guys just can handle it, and some guys can't. And I don't know if it was something with Trinan's mentality, and that's why he couldn't handle the 9th inning. But just with his stuff, he's throwing triple-digit sinkers, and when he was on, he was really unhittable. But he struggled with his control, and I think just some failures early on in the year kind of got to him, and just kind of all spiraled out of control for him. And like I said, I'm hoping with change of scenery helps him out, and he goes on to have a great long career. But yeah, I don't know, he just wasn't really built for the 9th inning.
Yeah, mentality's different. I mean, didn't we kind of see this also from Coda Glover? It took him like a whole month to get a strikeout at the big league level, which is rare because Glover was striking out guys like crazy in the minors and in the short time the big leagues last year. But I saw this in spring training. But didn't we kind of see this from Trinan at the Naval Academy when he had that outing in the 9th inning? And I think true. Brian Mejia made the error, but he needed like 30 pitches to get out of that 9th inning against the second-string Red Sox guys.
Your memory is very good. I'd forgotten that. I was still scarred for life for Jason Worth flipping off the mass and camera in the parking lot. Let's see. Larry didn't think we'd be on tonight. No, Larry, we were requested to be on, and so here we are. Al, Red Sox fan, says hello, everyone.
What's up, Al?
And Seth asked if I would go to the World Series parade in Washington. I am still in Vermont. I'm not going to be able to get down to D.C. to go to that if they win. Yeah, all right. The next question that popped into my head, who is the free agent that they must re-sign for next year? And I know everyone is going to say Jose Lobaton, but please try to restrain yourselves.
I'm going to go with Brandon Kinsler. I know I would like to see Jason Worth back here, but to me, and Drew's brought up on the shows he's done, I think he's gotten that question more than the two of us have had. I think Worth is a DH. I don't know if he's not terrible in the field, but I think at his stage in his career, he's going to be a DH. By the way, I love what he said to Coco yesterday. People thought I was an idiot for signing here, and I think they're idiots. So a classic Jason Worth quote with Dan Coco yesterday. But his career is going to be great. I just think if you bring back Kinsler, you make this bullpen still one of the elite bullpens in the league. And they can be fine without him. They have enough money if they don't sign him. I don't think it's as dire as, let's say, Melanson looked like it would have been. But I would bring back Kinsler if it was between him and Worth. And it's tough because Worth has meant so much to this ball club.
Drew?
Yeah, I think probably Adam Lind, because if you have Coda Gulliver back next year, I think he can do a great job taking over for Kinsler. But if Kinsler is re-signed and you add Coda Glover to that 300 monster in the back of the bullpen, that's a great bullpen. But I just love the job Adam Lind has done off the bench and backing up Ryan Zimmerman. And Zimmerman has been able to avoid the DL this year, but I'm not sure they'll be able to do that 2 years in a row. He's yet to do that in a while. So I really love Adam Lind. And another under-the-radar guy would be Edwin Jackson. I never thought I'd say that, but with Ross out for at least most of next season, I think Jackson's done a great job filling in the back end of the rotation and just kind of go out and eat innings for the most part. So I wouldn't mind seeing him back for one more year.
The only question with Jackson, and I do agree with you, Drew, I think he would be a good guy to bring in on either a minor league deal or a 1 year deal. But I do think they're going to give Eric Fetty every opportunity to win that 5-starter spot next year. I think they liked what they saw from him, at least in the major league level. He had some rough moments, but he had some good moments too. I think he was wearing down at the end of the season. Then he had the injury. But if you get Fetty prepared, he has a better mentality on the mound that I think you saw from a certain pitcher in Chicago and Lucas Giolito. He definitely has a better mindset. And I think that's going to help him along his major league career because he's working on that changeup, and I think it gets better as the games go on.
Now, this was a trick question because the correct answer is Dusty Baker. Because I don't think this team wins this division by 20 without Baker and what he's done in mixing and matching those lineups and making sure that whatever clubhouse troubles stayed in the clubhouse. And whatever you might think of how he handles the starting pitchers, it's September 11th, and we're talking about the Nats having clinched the division with a team at one point last month that had 13 players on the disabled list, 5, of course, Ryan Rayburn still being one of them, on the 60-day. I don't know how they do it without him. I honestly don't.
And a team that's played 14 different outfielders this year.
Wow.
14. The Robles was the 14th different outfielder yesterday. But I do agree. I think I wrote about it today. I love the fact that he gave those young players a chance to shine yesterday and said, this is your day. I'm going to let you play because you guys have helped us this year. And they delivered. Sanchez making great defensive plays and driving in a run. Robles' speed. Stevenson saved the game defensively last month against the Marlins. Rafael Bautista, I think, hasn't been around long enough for the injury, but he's got promise in his bat. Wilmer Defoe has been good. And I think Dusty, these players all believe in every move he makes. And that's a rarity. We've seen the contrast with Matt Williams 2 years ago and how the team totally didn't buy into what he was doing and his boring press conferences. Dusty has fun press conferences with awesome quotes, so that's why they kind of want him back too, because he's really funny. But I think it's really important for him that he gets over the hump this year. I think Nats fans don't want to hear anymore about how many elimination games he's blown in a row or the moves he doesn't make in October. He's got the team that can get him to his first World Series appearance since 2002. They're that good.
His for the Giants, not for the franchise.
Right. He's had. I think I saw say though he's had 10. He's going to have 10 seasons of 90+ wins.
That's amazing.
As a manager.
Pass along a couple scores for you because that's what we do. The Pirates lead the Brewers tonight 4-0 in the 6th. That's kind of a shocker. And the Monday Night Football game, or the early one, Minnesota just scored on New Orleans. You might see me peeking up every once in a while. It's now 26-9, Minnesota. Larry asks, and Seth, by the way, thanks for all the kind words of Drew with the best articles, and me as the best host, and Ricky as the best tweeter. Larry asks if will the Nationals play some of the regulars along with the rookies the remainder of the season? I think that they will. I think you kind of have to rotate these people. And I think, when Bryce Harper comes back, because he's starting to do some, as Ricky told us earlier, some baseball activities, you have to get them some, him and Worth have to have regular at-bats. They have to be able to get back up to speed. So it won't be like we saw on Sunday very much. But Worth and Rendon and Murphy are probably going to sit a lot over the next 3 weeks, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they all really need some days off. Just if you give a few guys a day off, like every day, then just give them some rest. But also, you got to keep playing them. Just keep getting them reps so they don't go cold and lose what they've been doing over the last few weeks. So, yeah, I definitely think we see some of these rookies that we saw yesterday, but no more like yesterday for the most part, where it's just all rookies apart from Trey Turner and we saw Adam Lind at first base.
I think you're gonna get a good mix. I think if you're a paying customer, you'll get your fair share of regular players to younger players. Like you'll see Howie Kendrick, I think, more in the lineup. You'll see Lind at first base more. Trey Turner is going to get to play. Michael Taylor obviously has been a constant. I mean, he gets a couple days because Taylor's played a lot since coming back. But I also think the Harper thing is important. And Dusty Baker was on MLB Network Radio today. He said he's the most important piece. He's taking light baseball activities. Although I don't think, and a lot of people are talking about this today, Harper's post-game comments with Dan Coco made me sound a little more skeptical because he didn't exactly sound confident that he was coming back.
Can you elaborate on that?
I'm trying to remember the exact quotes. I was watching part of it yesterday at about like 7:30. Maybe somebody who watched a little more of it, but it was kind of more of I'm trying to come back, but it wasn't exactly like, oh, I know I'm coming back. And with only light baseball activities right now, I mean, that would put Harper on track for the last week of the season. And remember, you and I were here, Ron, that August 3rd was at the middle of August when they had the diagnosis. Dusty's talking about him missing 7 to 10 days. So it's gotten to a point where we don't know when he's going to get simulated games or anything like. We don't even know if he's hitting.
You knew it would be tough because whenever he came back, the minor league seasons would be over. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't any rehab assignment to go through to put him in like they did with Worth and Turner. So if he is going to rehab this year, it's going to have to be in the big club. Of course, it doesn't matter if the results at this point because the division's already clinched. And he wasn't going to be back for the Dodgers series anyway. And yes, I do remember Dusty saying that. And sometimes I think Dusty has a little too much of that happy pixie dust. Judo says the quote from Dusty on Bryce, nobody can say he ain't worth the money. Alex has got to run. He do have to cook dinner, and we'll see. We'll all be here for as much of the postseason. So thanks for coming to be with us today, Alex. And Alex also brings up the good point. I think they're trying to keep everything as close to the vest as possible. None of us are going to know anything. And with the way that this team treats the injury report, Harper's probably down there on treadmills swinging in the batting cage with 40-pound weights on his arms, for crying out loud.
And trying out new hairstyles.
Yes.
But that's a good point because Dusty, remember, I think he got peeved at a Michael Taylor injury update a couple months ago, and he was like, oh, I wish I didn't have to tell you guys these things.
Right. Right. All right. So which of these kids are you the most excited to see the rest of the way? I assume that you're both going to say Victor Robles, but surprise me.
Drew, I'll let you go first.
All right. Yeah, you'd be right about Victor Robles. But I guess if I had to go with someone else, I would go with Andrew Stevenson, just because he seemed like he's probably the most big league ready out of all the other guys. And I was at that game against Miami where he made that great diving catch. That was one of the most exciting plays of the season for me to save that game. And just with his speed, I think if he could get his bat going, he could make a Trey Turner like impact. I don't expect him to be as good as Trey Turner, but if you pair him with Turner up at the top of the lineup and with Eaton coming back next year, I think he can be a great contributor for the Nationals for years to come.
Ricky?
To me, I'm actually go with Adrian Sanchez. I mean, when Trey Turner got hurt and we're all wondering who's going to come up, and they say Adrian Sanchez, I mean, that was kind of a surprise because Sanchez had good numbers at Syracuse, but wasn't exactly one of their best players. That would have been Brandon Snyder, who never got the call-up this year, despite a good year that he had. But even when Sanchez came up, his first at-bat was, I think, a 9-pitch at-bat with Trevor Rosenthal. and got called out in a terrible strike three that Yadier Molina absolutely fooled the umpire on that would have tied that game. He had the pinch hit single off of John Lester at Wrigley Field that helped guide that comeback against the Cubs. He had the defensive play yesterday with the double play for Strasburg that had him more pumped than I think we've ever seen him before. He can play short. He can play third. He's got a good contact bat. He works the count. And I'll also throw Rowdy Reed. I mean, the few games we've seen him play, his power shows. He had one swing Saturday night that it was, if he kept that fair, it would have gone a moonshot. And he's actually, I think, was like 3 for his first 7 at the plate. 2 of those were infield singles. But his offense is the reason why he's got up from Double-A to the big leagues. They love the way he swings the bat.
Yeah, Seth agrees with B. Reed. In fact, he bought a Roddy Reed jersey. Judo says Severino and Stevenson. And I'm going to say Severino because I really think he has a chance to make the playoff roster over Lobaton. I want to see him get some playing time. Nats prospect was with me on Twitter when Reed made his debut. And defensively, he's just not ready yet. When I mentioned the fact, well, he wears a number 65, and he said, yeah, that's equals the number of times a game of ball will get away from him behind the plate.
Yep.
And that's, okay, so that's being a little bit facetious there. But that's not a chance the Nats can take. And when you're making that move directly from Double-A to the big leagues as a catcher, you need to be a little more sure-handed. But, if you're a catcher and you know that position's going to be blocked for a while, there are other positions that you can learn to play. And so if you're not a very good defensive catcher, you can learn to play first base in that way too. So don't be surprised if you see them experiment with him. Fetty's done for the year, Judo. They shut him down because he pitched hurt. And Ricky can explain that a little bit more than I can, maybe.
He had a flexor strain and didn't tell anybody. He was pitching through a flexor strain. It's kind of like the Dakota Glover situation from June.
Larry Jacobs asked, what do you guys think? Should the team bring back Jason Worth, and how much would he cost to come back? I'd love to have Worth back, but we talked about it earlier on the show. I really think he is a DH that can play some outfield if he needed. I don't think he's going to demand a lot of money. So I think there's a couple things. If they win the World Series, I'm pretty convinced he retires. And oh, wait, I can play show and tell here. Hold on just a sec. But I think if he comes back, it'd probably be about $10 million, guys. You think that's going to be about what he'll end up signing for?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
I think they're more likely to bring Howie Kendrick back than Jason Worth. I think Kendrick is a little bit more affordable, and he can play some left field. He actually has done a good job. Him and Adam Lind aren't bad in left field. They haven't made any stupid mistakes that have cost games, and that's all you could ask for.
Friends of mine gave me this card. I don't know how well you can see it in the camera here, but this is Jason Worth, his rookie card from 1997, and it looks like a completely different person. Yeah, I guess you can kind of see because I'm watching on the delay. That really is. That's Captain Caveman.
Which, by the way, did anybody notice that beard is a lot less than what it was when he was doing the celebration yesterday? I felt like that beard was cut down a little bit.
I like my Captain Cavey. And you have to be of a certain age to understand that reference. I'm a bit older than Ricky and Drew. Actually, if I put the two of you together, you don't get to me, do you?
Do we want to try to see if we get to you? Or?
You don't get to me yet. If you add your two ages, it doesn't come up to 45.
Yeah, so you're right then.
Wow. Thanks for making myself feel old there, Ron. There was a cartoon show back when they showed cartoons on television, and it was called Captain Caveman, and he had all these beautiful cartoon girls around him, and he just kind of reminds me a lot of Jason Turner. Very, very hairy and not a lot of good English, but very astute with little things he said. Okay, that joke went very well. Seth asked if I think the Nats are better than Dodgers now. Yeah, I kind of think that they're better than the Dodgers now. What have they lost? The Dodgers have lost what, 16 to 17 or whatever?
15 of 16 and 10 in a row.
That's pretty bad. Judo says, that's why I'm happy to hear when they don't take chances with Max Scherzer in regards of shutting Fetty down. And I think the disappointing thing with Fetty was that it was like Coda Glover and didn't say anything. You can't do that. You're only risking further injury if you do continue to pitch. And I really think that Fetty had a chance to make the playoff roster. You could have gotten the 6-man rotation. You could have gotten full starts from everybody, knowing you had the extra days off, and you could have seen what you had from Fetty when there wasn't any pressure.
One of the things I'm interested to see at these last 19 games, because they're going to go that 5-man the rest of the way. What does A.J. Cole do? He was actually, when watching that game on Saturday, Drew, I don't know how much you caught of it, throwing 96 out of the bullpen. He had good movement on his off speed. He did have a balk, but he was able to get out of that balk situation. He's actually looked better from a mental standpoint in that in his last couple of starts. Yes, he's walked a few guys, but he's gotten himself out of those jams. If Edwin Jackson's going to keep having bad games like he's had the last couple of times, maybe A.J. Cole slides in there with a couple of good bullpen appearances.
Yeah, a guy I think of is Jordan Zimmerman. Back in 2012, they used him out of the bullpen in the playoffs, and he just looked outstanding. So I think maybe A.J. Cole's a similar guy where he just goes out and knows that he doesn't need to go 5 innings as he would for a start, and he can just kind of lay it all out on the line, and maybe we see better results from him in a bullpen role. So I think it's kind of intriguing to keep an eye on if he does stay out in the bullpen, just how he does, and maybe we see him. We haven't really seen too many great starts from him, so maybe he's a reliever moving forward, and he can have more success in that role.
42 pitches in 2 innings. That was probably arguably the best I've seen of A.J. Cole in the 3 years I've been here.
That's great. That's great. Judo says, I'm okay if Jason doesn't come back. I'm more concerned about what happens with Jay Worth-Beard on Twitter. I'd be curious to know who that actually is. I bet that comes back as someone else. I have a lot of fun with the guy that does the Rufus account on Twitter. Accuse him of getting stoned every once in a while. We have a good time. Al loved Captain Caveman. That's good, Al. Thanks for the kind words, Larry. It's good to see the 3 of us in the podcast. We just don't get the chance to do that often because, A, we try to get these, to streamline them as much as we can for you, and B, Drew's off to college. And so trying to corral him between his sorority parties, his frat parties, and his beer pong parties is just kind of hard to do. Actually, Drew doesn't do any of that stuff.
And Virginia Tech football. I mean,
that's true. He does do that. And now the Delaware Blue Hens call him Daddy. Judo says, guys, the Dodgers are just the slump that all good teams go on, in which they go on a double-digit losing streak. You know what, Judo? The Nationals have not had a losing streak this year more than 4. They did twice. They've not lost more than 4 games in a row. When I put together the slider for this morning on how they won the division, that was just one of the things that just impressed the hell out of me. That they never, even when they played poorly before the All-Star break and they had that stretch just before the rosters came up when you're going, this is a tired team, they've not lost more than 4 at any point this year. And if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, they won't lose more than 4 in a row at any point this year. So I haven't seen enough of the Dodgers to know if that's actually – should they be concerned?
I think you have to be. It's not – if you're the Dodgers and you lost 5 in a row and you rallied back to get a couple of wins. But Justin Turner was told, I think, Andy McCullough, like, right now we're bleeding and teams are smelling the blood in the water. And they're taking advantage of it. Yu Darvish has not been good since the first couple starts in L.A. Clayton Kershaw came back, and he hasn't exactly been sharp outside of the first game he pitched. Curtis Granderson's been bad since coming over. I think he's hitting like under 100. And you look at the turning point for them, and we always talk about how one game can change things. They have not been the same since Rich Hill lost that perfect game.
You
I think they're like
yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, I know John Morosi talked about it. They're like, I forget the exact record. I think they've only won 3 games since that point. So that could be a emotionally tough loss for a team when you have a guy pitch that great and you can't win. I think they're still a good team, but this isn't like the 2000 Yankees that had a bad last couple weeks and then reset, or the 2006 Cardinals. They're still a really good team, but they've let Arizona feel confident. They've let Colorado feel confident, and I believe they have losing records against both those teams. So it's not exactly a foregone conclusion that they get by the first round, and there's still a lot of pressure on Dave Roberts because he's even saying he doesn't even know what buttons to push right now.
Yeah, you got to be loving that. But we're all assuming that Arizona wins the wild card game, and we almost have.
And this weekend, by the way, no Clayton Kershaw or Yu Darvish. It's, I think, right now, Alex Wood, Rich Hill, and Kenta Maeda in those 3 games.
Ricky gets 3 gold stars for mentioning Yu Darvish's correct name. Judo says,
"I inside joke."
Yeah, Judo says, I think that to be concerned. Kershaw didn't right the ship either. I mean, it's kind of hard to have. I mean, as good as Kershaw is,
he got really angry the other night for getting up a home run in the first inning. That's not like him.
No, that's right. It's not. The Kershaw-tron has usually been better programmed than that.
That's the wonder you have with them. 3 lefties, and I think I like Roberts a lot. I still like Bellinger and those players that they can bounce back. But the longer this losing streak goes, and their schedule's pretty easy. The Giants, they got the Phillies, they got the Padres. They should still get that 1 seed. I'd be really shocked if they didn't get it. But they're not exactly as invincible as they were 3 weeks ago.
Right. Because it wouldn't be a in-season DoDCast without a full-fledged Major League Scoreboard. Let's go through it. Top 9, Toronto 4, Baltimore 3. Orioles have a runner on with nobody out. Cleveland in the top of the 7th leads Detroit in Cleveland 9-0.
That would be 19 wins in a row for Cleveland.
Unbelievable. At Yankee Stadium, Queens, it's the Yankees 5, the Tampa Bay Rays 1, in front of a pretty good size house, and the Rays aren't doing any better. Big win for the Yankees if that holds. Top the 7th now in Milwaukee, and the Pirates are shutting them out 6-0. Texas leads Seattle in the bottom of the 5th 5-3. I went on record thinking that Kansas City was going to get the 2nd wild card in the American League. See how well this prediction is going to go. In the bottom of the 4th, it's the White Sox 5, the Royals 0. And just the start of things in Arizona, Colorado and Arizona are scoreless. The Dodgers and Giants will start in about a half hour.
We will let you reset that prediction next week because that's the American League wild card. You change your predictions every week. That's just the way. I mean, it's the 2nd wild card. It's a different team every week. It's amazing. And I know Texas just lost the last 2. They got Hamels tonight, and I don't think Texas still has if they can somehow, if they're in it and get Beltre back that last week. Seattle to me is a little iffy, but they're supposed to get King Felix and Paxton back over the weekend. So, I mean, I think if there's ever a year that you have a playoff to get in the playoff, it might be the year, which would help a certain team in New York, I would think.
Well, depends on what you got going on. I'm fishing for something here. The Pirates are throwing a 1-hitter tonight in Milwaukee.
That's but you had to wonder with Milwaukee and how much does that Jimmy Nelson injury hurt? Because that guy, when he pitched, was really good.
Brault.
Steven Brault for Pittsburgh.
Steven Brault. 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts.
Because really, how much can the Brewers' rotation be carried by Kyle Davies and Chase Anderson?
And pitching and defense win games in the playoffs.
And their defense is not good in Milwaukee. They make the most. Yeah. To me, the team to watch is St. Louis. They believe they have 6 games left with Cincinnati. They have 7 left with the Cubs. So if anybody's going to catch Chicago, it's probably St. Louis.
Drew, do you want to go on record and make a prediction for the American League wild card? I assume that we all think the Yankees are going to be, if they don't win the division, it'll be the Yankees or the Red Sox as the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't checked the standings in a couple of days, but I really like the moves that the Angels made there at the waiver traded line, getting Brandon Phillips and Justin Upton. I think they're good additions to go along with Mike Trout, and they really having a good year before those two. So I think maybe they could go and run and get to that wild card game.
I don't know, Mr. Yankee fan. Who do you want to face?
Well, I said I think the Angels will get it. The team I would want to face, maybe I'll say this differently after next week, would be Minnesota. Because, I mean, who are they going to really throw in a one-game playoff that would scare any Yankee fan with Luis Severino pitching as well as he's pitching right now and the bullpen that they have? But Minnesota, it's amazing. They trade their closer away, and they're still doing a really good job. Byron Buxton's playing great defense in center field. Miguel Sano is at least back in the lineup for them. Minnesota, they're that kind of team that could really be a surprise, but I just don't think they can. And they have a history of not beating the Yankees in big games anyway.
All right, let's wrap this up. Most pleasant surprise for you this year?
For me, I think it's got to be Michael Taylor. Just with how he struggled in previous seasons, and then this year in spring training, he lost his father, and just to get an opportunity to play and just to see what he's done with it, it's really been a lot of fun to watch him out in center field for the Nationals this year.
Ricky?
Ryan Zimmerman. I mean, you and I, Ron, were talking in spring training when Zimmerman had like an 0 for 20. And we were wondering how many games is this guy going to play this year? Is he starting to be on the downside of his career? And whether it's Daniel Murphy's launch angle pep talks or whatever is working for him, he's become an instant impact bat in the cleanup spot. It's not going to be anymore that you don't trust this guy to hit. If a team walks Bryce Harper or Daniel Murphy to get to him, he may have those runner scoring some problems still, but he most of the time is going to deliver. Remember last year, he did have a couple of doubles in that best of 5 with LA, so he had a pretty good postseason, all things considering. So I think he's kind of the guy that you bank on now, and I don't think we would have said that 6 months ago.
Gio Gonzalez. I remember writing a piece before the winter meetings, wondering if he was going to have to compete for the 5th starter spot.
He went from a guy that you took out of the 5th inning in a playoff game last year to being consistently 6 innings every night.
Right. It just right from that first outing in Port St. Lucie, his body language to start the year was just so different. And he never kind of fizzled into old Gio. I mean, there are nights he can get a little wobbly. And there are a lot of nights you wonder how many 3-ball counts can one person survive without giving up a run. And I'm sure that we could probably find the answer to that because he does it all the time. But he just he's not an ace. You know, he doesn't give you that Scherzer or even Strasburg vibe. But you look in his game log, and it's just, as you said, he's 7-2 in his last 10 with an ERA of under 2. Yeah,
and that's with a bad game at Milwaukee.
I don't think anyone saw that coming. I don't think even he saw that coming.
He's a guy who wanted to get to Miami. Sadly, he didn't get there, but I think he's using that you talked about it yesterday. I think he's used that as a chip in the second half because this is next level stuff from him, and Mr. 34 scoreless inning streak is on another level himself right now.
What'd you think of the fist bump after the double play for Strasburg in the 8th?
I loved it. I loved it. He's been pretty stoic. He hasn't shown much emotion, but just to see him out there after that double play, like I really love to see him show that kind of emotion, and it really showed that, contrary to popular belief, he is a competitor out there. He does really care about these games, and it was really exciting to see him show that emotion, and I want to see him continue to do that in the future.
I think he's the X factor to the entire playoffs for me. Because if he is going to be this good and he's not going to cramp up in October because it's not that humid out in the postseason, if he's at this level throwing and the way that Gio's throwing, I don't see a team that can win 3 games in a best of 5 or 4 and a best of 7, maybe outside of that team in Cleveland, that can match that.
Every beat writer yesterday commented when he did the fist bump, because I see him I see these things 30 seconds before I look up and see him on the TV. And so I knew it was coming. And every single one of them, from Kerr to Kolko to Collier and even Ladson, who's not really doing the Nats anymore, made a point to mention at the time, I've never seen Strasburg do that before. So, yeah.
He's more confident now. It's not quite Matt Albers' level of intensity, because when Matt Albers gets big outs, it's so much fun to watch him go crazy. I think it's Matt Albers crazy. Max Scherzer crazy is probably number 10, because when he starts talking to himself and starts yelling at Dusty or Mike Maddox, that's a 10. But Strasburg's getting close. It was like at about like a 6. But for him, that's like a 10.
Right. You know, when Scherzer starts grunting in the third inning, and I'm kind of half asleep, and I've wondered if I've left it on the tennis channel or not. Let's see. We're not going to talk about who we want the Nats to play. We'll get to that later. Al is surprised that Dusty Baker made it through the year. I really think he's a manager of the year. As I said, we're having this conversation. There are 10 playoff spots in Major League Baseball. And did you ever think that the Nats would be the first one to get it? No.
Not even close.
I'm not surprised that they're in, but the fact that no one else is even coming close to this clinch. And yes, I'm sorry that John Farrell is still with the Red Sox. Judo says, as much as we rag on Wieters, I think he's done a lot to help out, and I think that goes a lot to Gio's confidence as well. And he also mentions the Rendon game and what we said at the start. I think the turning point of the season was the 23-5 game, and I think we all pretty much agreed on that.
And Wieters does a good job with plays at the plate.
Yes.
A lot of the throws he gets from Michael Taylor have been great, and he doesn't, as good as Wilson Ramos was, he's probably a better defensive catcher than Wilson Ramos. Now, it's a $12 million worthy, maybe not, but I think he'll be better next year from an offensive standpoint. And he gets big hits. He had the grand slam in Chicago. So look up his runners and scoring position numbers. They're really good.
Judo says this was the 6th fastest clinch in MLB history.
Yep.
All right. Today on the website, if you're still with us, I did a slider on how I thought the Nats won the division, from the bad division to take a deeper look inside some of the numbers and just what it means to play as a team. This is such a really tight team. That's what struck me the most. And Ricky talked a bit about the role of the kids, and I give Dusty full credit for doing that yesterday. They were pretty excited. Robles with the triple that he popped up over the pack and couldn't get back in time. That sort of thing. And Trey Turner, he had a pretty good game too. So that's what went up on the site. DistrictOnDeck.com. Follow us on District on Deck on Twitter. We will be with you, even though the games really don't mean anything now. They really haven't meant much since July 4th, okay? We'll be with you every step of the way, the rest of the way. We'll have podcasts after every game, and we'll have at least 2, if not all of us here for each of the playoff games.
Absolutely. So stay there with us as well. And also, I want to say this today. It's a very solemn day throughout the entire country. I am from New York City. I'm from Staten Island. I was 9 years old when the sad day in 2001 at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the field in Pennsylvania. So our thoughts and prayers with all those who were affected by that tragedy. It's a day you should never forget. You've seen a lot of teams tweet that today, and it's good that it stays in our minds because it's really important. And our thoughts are with the people dealing with Hurricane Irma in Florida and in Georgia and the Southeast, and seeing all those pictures there and what happened in Texas is also very heartbreaking.
Yeah, with Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
Drew?
Yeah, it's just very exciting to kind of on a higher note, very exciting to see the Nationals clinch yesterday, and excited to see what they do, what these young kids do throughout the rest of September, and what the Nationals can do in October. Hopefully we see at least they win their first postseason series since returning to DC.
And we might have a special show. We're hoping to get somebody from the Dodgers site after the ESPN game Sunday. So if you're around Sunday night after the game, we might have a Nats-Dodgers two-way discussion that I think you'll enjoy.
I don't know if anyone gets past Cleveland, but I just have such a good feeling about what this team can do. As back there's some of us, I think Al is one of them, who remember when it was only 4 playoff spots and not 10, that there is no such thing as a bad year when you make the playoffs. And the fact that for the first time, this team has done it in back-to-back years. October may not go as well as we hope it will, but I have a feeling that this team is different than what we've seen in the past. I just have a feeling. I can't say specifically, point A, B, and C, but I think this is the first. I think this is the year. I had them losing the NLCS back when we did the predictions back in March. I wouldn't go that far again, but I do think this is a year that we actually get a second round out of the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, and as good as Cleveland has been, the playoffs are really a crapshoot. We've seen the Nationals go in with the best record in the league and still not get out of the first round. And I really liked what Max Scherzer said yesterday, where he said that this team is the best lottery ticket he's ever had. And really, that's what it is. The playoffs is a lottery ticket. All bets are off, and you never know what could happen in a 5-game series or a 7-game series. So I'm just excited to see how it all shakes out and hope we can see at least a series win from the Nationals.
We'll definitely when we get to the playoffs, get into how Max Scherzer's got to win a postseason game. That hasn't happened in a long time. Different small things we'll look at, but it definitely, when you get into the playoffs, like Drew said, it's a crapshoot. Anybody can win. And you look at the Indians right now; they're going to play Jason Kipnis in the outfield. It looks like it's like an embarrassment of riches what they have. And Andrew, they have won 19 straight with Andrew Miller out. That alone is amazing. And so I think they're the favorite, but anybody can be beaten. And I think Houston's a good team. Ron, your Red Sox are a good team, and if the Cubs make it, they have that championship experience from last year that will play in their back pocket, I'm sure.
As Al, Red Sox fan, would tell you, Terry Francona is just a very special manager. Cleveland is so lucky to have him. So, yeah, and contrary to popular opinion, the record in October for the Nats is not 2-3. They start 0-0 along with everyone else. Stop the put the negativity.
Do our DoDCast records go to 0-0? Or do they continue?
No, they continue. It's kind of like college basketball records, which someone's about to know about in great detail. You just keep adding those statistics throughout the postseason. All right. Yes, I remember 2004, both LCSs. All right. So thank you very much. I like to forget those, but yeah. Ricky, you would like to forget it. I'm sure people in Houston like to forget the NLCS that year too. So for Drew and Ricky and the rest of the staff at District on Deck, I'm Ron Chuckett. Have yourself a good night, and one of us will be with you tomorrow after the Braves. And maybe we can talk about Chip Carey and cornrows or something like that. I don't know. Good night.